We will call the meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority of September 26th to order. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of September 14th?
Motion.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Do we have a motion to approve the airport vouchers totaling $115,892.54?
Motion.
A motion to a
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We have individual vouchers A through K.
Motion.
We have a motion to approve the individual vouchers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous approval on the individual voucher. Number 4, adopt a resolution for the Bank of North Dakota Airport Facilities Revenue Bond Series 2023. This is under various names, the Bank of North Dakota money, the Legacy Fund money, all sorts of different names, but the official name here is the Airport Improvement Fund. We're going to, this is a two-step process. We, of course, have to first approve the resolution. And up until this time, we've talked about this being a loan. And if you're thinking of sort of the traditional loan documents, this is a little bit different. That the way this is set up is it's a bond, and the bond will be sold in a negotiated sale on terms already negotiated with the Bank of North Dakota, 30-year amortization, 2% interest rate. So this sets forth all of the parameters of that. And then the next step is the city will also have to approve this because this does carry the requirement with it of the general obligation of the city. And so the city will pass a similar resolution saying that if revenues from airport and airport operations are not sufficient to cover the debt service on the bonds, the city would then levy a tax to take care of that or provide some other funds in some manner. And so we need to go through this. It does lay out all the different terms, and we will be creating a debt service reserve fund, so we will have reserve funds in the event of cash flow slowdown change. The one change I would recommend on this is the project is currently defined as the airport expansion and remodel, terminal expansion and remodel, excuse me. As we go through this, we're going to take all our financing sources going forward, and I think we should go back and ask Bank of North Dakota to include the parking garage under the definition of the project. So if it made sense to draw funds to pay for the parking garage, we could do that. We would still have to stay in compliance with repayment sources. Parking garage, typically, there's no grant dollars, there's no additional money there. So we'd have to be very careful on that. All that would do at this point is we would request them to include that, and it makes it a possibility. It does not commit the funds one way or another, but it doesn't prohibit us at that point going forward. And the only other thing I notice in there, on the bond, I believe on the dates, is the page 3, item number 4 in the document. They just missed November 1st. They just had a November date. identify that as May 1st and November. We need to make that change. And so questions, discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
will the changing of the definition of use of funds, will that affect the modeling for the purpose of other dollars? If we allocate dollars and say we can use these loan dollars for a parking facility, does that then detract from use or the FAA or any grant giver's use of dollars?
What this would do is just include the parking garage in the project definition. There is no other further allocation at this point. If you look at the Leibowitz and Thornton run that was provided at the last meeting, they did designate a split in those loan proceeds, how they'd be deployed. It's probably more important how you're paying them back and what funds are eligible for paying them back. And so this doesn't say that we would use it in this manner. It just says it makes sense, I think. Now, the Bank of North Dakota has a big problem with it. We'll see what that is, but I think this is just inquiring at this point and then making sure.
Will this delay the time to get back to the Bank of North Dakota and then back to us to make those amendments to the document, delay getting it to the City Commission at all?
Well, the City Commission is asked to delay it till October 16th at this point, so we do have time available at this point. Now the other thing is, we would, if you read the document there, it looks like we'll draw down the full $40 million and put it in the construction account, and so it doesn't look like this is going to be a multi-disbursement loan. So this shouldn't at this point cause any trouble. And again, all we're doing is expanding the definition. Bank of North Dakota might want to specifically call out the parking garage because they're calling out every revenue dollar as a source of repayment for the project.
So then, Mr. Chair, then the Bank of North Dakota's recourse against the debt is all the dollars anyway. You're just including the proposed parking garage as a revenue source as well as a use source.
Yep. So do we have a motion to, I guess we won't be adopting the resolution, we'll be actually asking for the change to it. And then we'll react to that in our next meeting.
So moved.
Do we have
I do have a question. Can we make the motion such that if approved by the Bank of North Dakota, or if accepted, it is approved by the board, then we don't have to come back to it?
Yeah, I think we need that. Is everybody comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that motion? The friendly amendment.
I second it with that caveat.
Okay. Joan, do you have that?
Has to be a roll call.
All right, we have a motion and second. Call the roll, please.
Hagan,
Aye.
Capitan,
Aye.
Heckman,
Aye.
Cosgrove,
Aye.
Mr. Berg absent.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have said that Mr. Berg is out of the country, I believe. All right. We have a few things to clean up on our budget. John, I don't know if you want to walk us through those real quickly, or I can.
Well, I did give you kind of 3 pages of some of the summary, and I think the one page that you got, if it's dated September 21st, I did add the CFO in the 561 7004 wages. So the amount that's in the budget that's printed out does include the $200,000 for the CFO that you made back at that board meeting on July 11th. The only thing that we need to confirm today is 3% cost of living, which is in line with the other metro things. I think the city is still at 2, but Susan Thompson had told me that they're maybe trying to get to 3 in the city budget. Others are, I know what the county was, Jim.
3%. COLA?
Yes.
3%.
Okay, so matches West Fargo, Clay County, and Moorhead. So that's one change. The other thing to affirm is that I did change the employee benefits and health insurance. The initial one that you received back in July was a 10% increase. Our actual increase is 5.77%. So that has been changed. And then for you to affirm not only the 3% COLA, if that's what you desire, but the employee share of the single and family plan would remain the same as it was this year, which is $71.50 per month for a single plan and $370.24 for a family plan. The other thing that changed from July is that we have run a new cash flow analysis for the terminal project. McGough was kind enough to provide that for 2024, since the project now will not begin until May of 2024. So we did run through the new cash analysis, and that's reflected in the 5,637,600. Everything else has remained the same as what you looked at in July. So cost of living, health insurance, and then what are the questions? The other thing I did here earlier this week is I've asked Greg Pearson at SP Plus to review the projected parking revenue. It was a little over $6.7 million for calendar year 2024. I think that estimate was provided prior to the board's decision to possibly move forward with a parking garage. And based on the initial kickoff meeting we had here on August 30th, between the architect and the contractors, it appears that approximately 500 spaces would be taken out of availability for the traveling public to park in. That's 238 in the short-term lot, which would be closed down for the construction on the short-term, and then more spaces in the long-term lot to the south, another 262 that's estimated. So taking 500 spaces out of revenue production starting in the spring of 2024 through December 31st of 2024, what does that look like in terms of impact to the revenue? So the parking revenue estimate could change.
Questions? Let's start with parking first, going back. Sean had also asked that you ask SP Plus to study all of our existing parking during the construction period and offer other alternatives. And, what we may be able to do on an interim basis. But it does look like, if we go ahead with the parking garage during 2024, it's going to be a mess until that new ramp gets open. And I think I would ask SP Plus to be as creative as possible. That we do have employee parking of about 250 spaces. We have a number of different options, including shuttles and everything else, to try to minimize this. The revenue absolutely is very important to us, but the number one thing we have to do is maintain our customer base, because we know if we don't have parking, we can't grow passenger traffic. And so I think the number one criteria is how do we continue to serve our customers on the best basis possible with the number of options from economy through short-term type amenities. At the same time, who are we going to inconvenience? And my position has always been our customers have to remain first. We do everything to maintain the customer experience, and unfortunately the employees take the inconvenience if there is any. So I think we would want to make sure that we look at that. Oh.
Maybe we could get an accounting or an analyzation of who's parking in the employee parking. Like, are they working in the terminal?
Not all of them.
Right.
We've answered that before with its flight crews. So
Right.
the airline, the flight crew that serves Fargo, you're aware of that because we've had that privilege for years.
Yep.
employees of airlines that do not serve the terminal go to SP Plus and get a quarterly tag.
Okay.
I don't think it's monthly, it's quarterly.
Quarterly.
For SP Plus, they've done that for years. So if it's NetJets or it's Southwest Airlines or an airline that doesn't serve Fargo. So it's a combination of flight crews that are gone for an extended period of time or others. And you can notice that by halfway down the lot, there's a sign that if you got 2 holes in your sticker, you're a flight crew, you can't park up in the front areas that are closest to the terminal for the employees. So you can get some accounting of that, I guess, but that's how it's been.
If we had to inconvenience any employees, we could kind of divide out like who's actually coming and working in the terminal every day as opposed to different work
Our
groups.
preliminary thoughts are is that the flight crews and others that aren't currently working in the terminal would have to go someplace else and park for the duration of the inconvenience. The initial comment, I think Greg Pearson was on the last board meeting, John, when you had mentioned about the employee lot. One of the options there is to turn in and start a valet service. They've looked at that, but it's not really cost beneficial, but they would do a valet and then be able to maintain the revenue in the employee lot. I don't know what that cost is, but Greg did mention that they could do a valet service.
Could employees park in the regular lot and then just have a code to scan in and out?
It's possible we can look at that, but based on our capacity last year, with all the snow, it's going to be difficult. Maybe it's designated to one of the economy lots or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the staff, we can park over at the maintenance shop. That's not an issue. But with the other employees, it's going to be.
They could have maybe a pass card or something that would read in and out.
Can look at that.
The lot over on, it's just a little bit south of, it's the, what do we call that one? The lot with the arms. And it's not that far
the east
away
economy
from,
lot.
that's not that far away from the current.
And that's certainly
employee.
possible. We could cordon off an area of that. I mean, we'll have to talk about it with staff and find out what some other options are. But it's certainly possible. But once you get to near capacity in the short and long-term lots, those that are doing their online reservations, it's almost impossible then for SP Plus and CAVU or Manchester Airport Group to manage the online reservation system when you have employees coming and going, taking spaces that they are reserving in the inventory for some of that. Hey, I reserved this online, I'm coming on Tuesday. You get here and the employee has, that's really difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, they could designate employee areas within, so
It's possible.
it's going to be a mess. I just think we need to try to be as flexible as possible.
When you're dealing with snow, I mean, Master did a phenomenal job with snow removal. It's never been better in terms of them being there timely. The difficulty is as flights are returning and people are pulling out of spots to get the skid steer in to move the snow out so somebody else can park. It's just awkward. If everybody would fly home every night and move the car so we could do snow, it'd be nice, but that doesn't happen. But they've done a great job with that. Looking to improve. But we'll look at it and see what we can come up with. My first inkling is that the employees are over in that East Economy lot.
Mm-hmm.
There could be some space to create a temporary lot by our electric vault. There's a little area between the entrance to the control tower that kind of conflicts with the walkway with those from the east lot, but we'll find out. We can't really rely on anything in the car rental lots, the overflow lots, because those are typically full, especially on weekends when all the cars come back. They're typically out during the week and come back on the weekends.
Well, and again, even with Sean, as we talked, the rental car companies might work with us on a short-term basis, and again, if they incur additional costs, could they stage their cars somewhere else and bring them in and out? I just think we need to throw everything onto the table and try and figure it out. It does highlight to me, when we're all done with this, when we look at the revenue generated by the employee lot, about $10,000 a year.
More than that.
Well,
20.
20,000. When you look at that compared to what short-term parking brings in over $1 million, we do need to kind of take a look at what we're charging there and what we can do with that going
Yeah,
forward.
Greg plans to do an update at our October 10th meeting, so he's already ran a rate analysis.
Good.
Looking at an additional $1 or $2. I've also asked him for a capacity report in terms of what's the available spaces at 5 a.m. in the morning versus noon, and then go back, and they can do that in the park system to bring that out. So you can see, I came out like on Monday morning, there was 15 spaces left in the short-term lot. This is at 5 in the morning, so
There's no
obviously
control structure for the employee,
No.
so
other
that's
than a
just.
sticker.
And do we check those, or does
Yes.
SP Plus check those?
No, it's our walking roving guard does that.
Okay. Do we ever haul anybody out of
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Well,
Joan,
but-
if you could, I know Paul's question about who parks there. You did give me a list of who has parking permits for that. Why don't you just share that with everybody, so they've got that.
Who has permits?
Yeah, if they all have the little sticker, right? Who has permits to park? And if you could, just a little detail, if it's Subway, or if it's,
And to Rick's point from the last meeting, we've got employees that are walking in every day to the meeting or to the terminal, and that's different than people who are leaving their cars maybe for a week or, you know what I mean? We have to give priority to the employees who are actually working in the terminal. So they're, like, we could separate out when we're trying to figure out who is going to get maybe the East Economy.
Those are here on a daily basis: car rental, restaurant, gift shop, TSA.
Mhm.
It's those employees.
Right.
so if we could just, if you could share that list, a while back you sent one to me. It wasn't really detailed as far as who,
Well, anyone who works in the terminal.
but now, as to Rick's point, working in the terminal, are those issued to the employees? I thought they were issued through the lease to the business, and then the business did whatever.
Well, the employee comes in and gets the permit, gives the vehicle and contact information. And then with most of them, we bill the employer.
Okay.
Unless they, and the employer usually pays for one permit. If they have a second car, then the employee pays that themselves.
Yeah, if we could just, I think to Paul's point, just share what we've got at this point. If we have additional questions, since we have it.
Well, short-term parking is our cash cow. So, and I think it shows people are willing to spend a little bit more for the convenience of parking closer. So we don't want to
And
lose
we'll
that,
also be
that bulk of
possibly
revenue.
looking at some rate changes there as we go. And Sean, none of the parking revenue gets diluted into the leases, correct? Are there any leases that say it's $10,000 a month and another $500 for parking? The parking is just an understanding with the lease, or is it actually written into the lease?
No. Other than the TSA, that's the only one that has a requirement for parking. There's some with the FAA and the East Terminal, but over here it says the TSA, correct?
3 spots.
3 spots for that.
TSA does.
Mhm.
Well, they've got a bigger area roped off out there.
No.
All right. Well, I mean, we better be prepared for this, because the minute they put a shovel in the ground, we're going to have to work really hard to make sure that everything gets Sean, the other issue, and Greg will address this, as you said, the parking revenue estimate by SP Plus after the first quarter this year, which the first quarter is one of our heaviest parking usage quarters, was $6.7 million for the year, with $906,000 in expenses, which includes actual expenses of the parking lot and the management fee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's almost $1 million. Not all of that going to SP Plus, but a good portion of it. And as we go forward, and this is just something we can discuss with the modeling, and we've got Leibowitz and Horton, and now Baker Tilly, and we have an I-Bailey model, and if we have SP Plus. We probably can simplify this at this point going forward and tell SP Plus going forward, we just need to look at the total revenue generated by parking with the assumption of the ramp being built. And we've gotten kind of all wrapped around the axle of trying to create this incremental revenue that if we don't build the ramp, here's what the revenue would be. If we do build the ramp, here's what the revenue would be. So here's incremental revenue going forward. And then looking at that, we've done that process, but I think we keep getting tied up now on what's existing baseline revenue, what's new revenue. What's important to the airport is that the revenue generated by parking and other activities pays all the expenses of the airport, including the debt service that they're anticipating adding into that whole mix.
So incremental revenue won't be any part of this calculation because the garage won't be open to great incremental revenue
No.
in 2024. So that's a 2025 and beyond calculation.
Yeah.
So that'll be easy for them to put together.
What we need to do, though, is set that baseline for 2024, which right now is 6.7 million, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to see that increase this year, which would probably indicate that we might have projected a little low on 2024 revenue at 6.7 million. But
I hesitate to think 6.7 is going to be the number that will carry based on the fact now that 500 spaces will be taken out of production. It's going to be something less than that. How much, I'm not sure. But if you decide to increase the rate in the short-term rent, and that takes effect, say, November 1st, you'll be able to collect on that through this busy winter season. But then when construction will start in May, possibly, Rich, on the parking garage, all that revenue then shuts off. So you're going to take a one-time hit, 12, 14-month construction period, and try and identify what that cost will be. Make a pretty good idea. It's about 1.1 million is generated in the short-term line. You take 238 spaces times 19 at this point, times 365, there's your answer. And it's not 100% occupancy every day, but that's the maximum amount.
well, and again, that's where we start being creative too on what we can generate in revenue from alternative spaces, be repurposing, reuse, everything as we go along there. So we know it's going to be a difficult thing, but just something we have to figure out. I don't know, they bring those concrete sections in a week or two, they should have it up and we should be selling parking. Shouldn't be a problem at all. I can't see any reason that we'd have to slow down. Maybe a rainy day. All right. The other thing on the budget item there, and again, we'll communicate to SP Plus as we look at that at this point, really what we want to do is just look at what we anticipate the revenue to be from operating the parking system with a 973-car ranch, and the assumptions that we put forth last June when we did this, and we believe that was a $25 a day charge, 60 or 65% occupancy, and a 29% cannibalization, which says 29% of the revenue from the garage will have transferred from short or long-term parking. And so that's just a marginal revenue piece. And I do not believe, and I would ask everybody's indulgence, we talked about cannibalization will not last forever. So, Rick, I think you had brought up 2 or 3 years.
At the most.
Three is the max.
Three is the max for the cannibalization. And so where some of the confusion came in is that the continued increase in parking revenue made rather heroic assumption that we could just continue to add parking and at no cost. And so it was a little bit deceptive. So if we just go to saying, let's forecast what the revenue will be with the ramp in play and these parameters, we should be able to get really close to what our cash flows are, and then look at the cash flow model for the entire operation as we go forward. All right. And finally, the only other thing I had on the health insurance, and again, this is just, I think it's important. We have a commitment to the employees. I certainly do not want to increase their costs in health insurance at all. But I do think we need to continue to be aware that we're freezing the employee's portion of it, and our portion of the health insurance goes up, and that the employees also understand that the authority is continuing to absorb that increase, and that just to help everybody be aware of how expensive health insurance is. And so as we present it to the employees, I would certainly encourage that we say, your payment is going to stay exactly where it is. The payment being made by the airport authority is this amount and that percentage.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I think to be competitive, we should really consider about paying 100% of the employees' single insurance and a flat dollar amount of their family to be competitive. That's the market. That's where the market's going, and I think if we're ahead of that, it may be good for retention and or bringing new employees in.
That would be, I think you had the number in there, about 375,000.
Yeah, I don't know if I backed that out of here now, but it wasn't 340,000.
340.
Based on the 5.77% interest. I know the City of Bismarck pays 100% of their insurance. At the AAA conference in Spokane, I just came back from the number of airports that are not only paying 100% of the premium, they're also paying 100% of the deductible. That's another caveat. And they're also paying a significant portion towards child care.
What are we seeing in turnover at this point? Is our turnover above what's normal?
We don't have a lot of turnover. I mean, we've lost a mechanic and we lose an equipment operator from time to time. Really, it's been very stable in our building maintenance. The turnover in our fire department has been retirements, well-deserved retirements from long-standing 30-plus, 40-some-year employees. So turnover hasn't, fortunately, knock on wood, wherever it is, hasn't been bad. We did secure a mechanic finally that started on Monday. We hope that that's going to work out and will sustain us here for a while. Still looking for one other full-time position as a combination mechanic and equipment operator. We had someone, but he never showed up for work.
John, Jim, city and county, do you know what they're doing in there? I thought we were kind of syncing up with them at this point.
With insurance, I think our increase is like 15% or more
Okay.
this year, but
I got that information from Mike Redlinger. It's like 80-20, I think, is what the city's.
I don't think we're changing the formula for how much individuals pay.
Jim, do you know what county or?
It's about the same as the cities. 15.
I think we'd want to study it a little more if this is where we want to go, but Mr. England, if you want to make a motion to study 100% pay at this point, I don't know.
Well, I think before we do that, we need to understand that part of the premiums paid or out-of-pocket paid for premiums by some of our firefighters is 100% reimbursed. Is that right? Do they?
Well, yeah, so that is correct. So on the fire department side, 100% of that is reimbursed by the airlines. So our net of this 340 is something different than that.
So
I don't
realistically, a
have that exact
portion of those the airlines are paying for anyway. So I think that would be.
Was it the 340 is net of that, you said?
That would be the gross.
This is exactly, if we want to pursue this, we should go back and figure out the exact dollar amounts of the impact of the change. And so if you'd like to make a motion, go ahead and do that.
I would move that we consider paying 100% of the base single coverage for all employees of the airport. And then a pro rata portion of the family coverage. Or I should say family, there is spouse or single plus, and then there's family. There's 2 tiers beyond that, I believe, Sean, is that correct?
Same cost though.
It is? Okay, all right.
Jim, do you want to identify a revenue source at this point, or just assume that the revenues will increase, or identify it?
Just, you mean an offsetting?
Yeah.
No. I think the value of giving that to those employees creates comfort in their work environment, and you get value out of that. So that value is implied.
No, and I'm just saying, as we look at our budget right now, you're just saying and assuming additional revenue will appear.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying for the purpose of maintaining our employees. and
No,
training
Rick, I'm not
employees,
arguing that. Where does the money come from?
Our operating budget.
Okay, so we're just going to add $340,000 to the operating budget. Would be the other side of this.
Are we adding $340,000 to the operating budget, Sean, or is that the current cost? We're only adding their 150 or whatever their portion is of those total number.
I
So
believe
if we-
in the information, it's
Yeah.
340 to move.
Well, if we, now, this was based on who had insurance right now as of the time period. So this could spur some employees who don't have health insurance, well, they have health insurance through another source. They could come on and take out a plan now if it's paid for. So the estimated annual cost with the 5.77% was $270,471. And if we picked up 100% based on the employees that had the insurance in place at the time of this year was $340,569. That would be the gross.
So it'd be a $70,000 increase?
Approximately.
So $70,000 to $100,000 increase in our out-of-pocket cost to provide the benefit at a 100% level to those current. And he made a good point about others knowing and aware that's available that would then maybe shift coverage to us.
So there'd be addition. Okay. Well, before we have additional discussion, is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
We have a second to the motion. All right. And
The
this
other-
is to study and bring back the numbers to us. So
To study and bring the numbers back so that we understand exactly what the cost is, and then when we have that number, we can put it to it.
What's our deadline with North Dakota Public Health Insurance Trust to give them the breakdown?
We already did. We were required to do it September 23rd.
Okay. So if we change it now to
We might be able to make the amendment to that because it doesn't really affect.
it shouldn't affect their
Yeah.
their
Premium payment.
their premium is the same. It's just how they get paid.
I just look at the breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'll be able to, John or Jones, here's the employees. You might have to be careful. HIPAA and everything else. But number of employees.
And then would Pro Resources be doing this study?
I put it together. It'd take me 30 minutes, so it doesn't
Okay.
take long.
I think it would help to have the market analysis to see what the county's doing, what the city is doing, what other, just for competition. Or,
She provided that, Megan provided that to us.
Yeah, I think,
just so we know where we stand.
right, and just, going back, I thought we were pretty much on market with what we were doing. We do have to be aware that there's a ratchet effect.
Right.
And so, other public entities can go back and forth. So we have motion and second to do the study. And you'd want that back by next meeting of this meeting?
Based on Sean's statement, that should be able to be done, correct?
It won't take too long.
Okay. Well, and I would speak against it just at this point. But, I think we've got adequate benefits. I think we are aligned with the city and the county. And we turnover at this point. And again, this is where we're actually picking up additional cost by holding the employees' amount that they pay constant this year. We're picking up a 6% additional cost at this point. So we have added benefits under this program. Call the roll.
Hagan.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye.
Heckman.
Aye.
Osborne.
No. Okay. UPS parking lot.
Yeah, so this is a real simple amendment in their lease agreement that Stacy they put together, and it's back at UPS Legal. What they're doing is converting green space that they're paying for in their lease under an agricultural rate to a parking lot. It's 23,000 some square feet of additional parking, so it changes from the ag rate to 25 cents a square foot. I think the effective date is November 1st, I believe. So the parking area that they are improving is within their current lease space. It just changes the rate. And that is
Sheriff,
what
what,
you're looking at.
Sean, what is that additional revenue?
I knew you were going to ask that. And they had it, so it went from $4,984.31 a month to $5,477.40 a month, or on an annual basis from $59,811.75 to $65,728.75.
Are there any additional costs out of our pocket for that?
Other than Stacy's time, that's it.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Sorry. So moved. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Another short little update on the passenger terminal.
Yep. And Brandon, are you still on? Brandon Halverson?
Yeah. Hey guys. Good morning.
Disappeared.
Just a short update this morning. We're moving forward in the construction documents phase. We have 2 bid packages going out. Actually, technically 3. We issued an elevator procurement bid package recently, and that's out for pricing. And that's just to stay ahead and on schedule because of the lead times for the elevator materials. Then bid package 1, which is foundations and also the structure, timber and steel structure, and then some of the longer lead mechanical items. That'll be issued on November 17th, going out for pricing and getting contracts and purchase orders in place for that. And then bid package 2, which is the rest of the terminal, is still on target for being issued in January, like mid-January, in which case still on target for a start in April. Value engineering efforts, I think at the last meeting we showed you that we were at about a $12 million budget over our original budget. We brought it, since then, we've evaluated product alternates and then also return on investment evaluations for some of the HVAC equipment compared with the cost of it. And we're able to bring down that budget difference to just 6.5%. So over $4 million reduction so far. So we're heading in the right direction. We're going to continue to explore opportunities to reduce those costs, but right now we're in a pretty good spot without having to compromise, the program requirements and quality of construction. We're still moving towards efforts to procure and secure federal, state, and local funding. Tom Schauer with our office presented to Senator Hoeven last week. I think some of you were present. And then there were, I believe, a leave behind or kind of a brief handout, just kind of summarizing the reasoning and then the needs and how that funding would be broken out. And then last piece, we for the next meeting, if there is time available, I think October 10th, we'll have some interior restroom renderings to share with the team. And that is all I have at this point. Any questions on where we're sitting right now?
Was it last week that you said that with funding that the bathroom remodels or renovations would be compromised?
Just the existing. Right now, that one's kind of on the cusp. Right now, we're still trying to include that, and moving in that direction.
Which
So those are that's the first floor restrooms behind the elevator.
okay.
Yeah. It wouldn't be cut out altogether, Paula. There is going to be some level of renovation, but it's the scale of renovation that we're considering.
Okay. I just wasn't sure which bathrooms or what the scope was, so thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Are we going to be doing any public sort of progress stakeholder meetings going forward?
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up. We do have another round for the user group sessions, the listening sessions, with the rest of the airport. That'll be mid to late October. We'll be putting those meeting invites out shortly. And then as far
That's just a general call to the public. Is that how that sets up?
we don't have any public presentations or user input sessions. We have their more focused, like we're meeting with the Freedom Resource Center, which is advocates for the accessibility of the terminal. We're meeting with Artworks, and then users within the terminal at this point.
Okay, so are you reaching out directly to them? Is that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think here. The more public input we get, I think the better off we are.
I think it would probably be advantageous to establish a task force with community stakeholders. And whether we meet with you or just bring ideas back to you could be determined as we go forward.
It was presented.
Yeah, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
It was presented to the chamber board. I did that a couple months ago at the August meeting. The full spectrum.
You're thinking of kind of a more purposeful overall group that would say this. Don't put ideas in your head, but we have a committee that's going to bring also community involvement to the individual user groups and special needs type process. So somebody's kind of sitting on top of all of that.
I mean, we talk about community engagement, so I think, instead of to have the Convention and Visitors Bureau or the Chamber at the table giving us some input, and I think that would only be advantageous.
So
Something
we try, and I'll just say that we had that early on during the schematics and during our input sessions, and that's like really the best time to get that community input, because it could be significant, depending on what they're looking for, and incorporate that into the program. Where we're at right now is really about finishes. We certainly don't want to be moving or eliminating spaces, or creating new spaces. Right now we're looking at like finishes and details of what those spaces are going to support within the user group. So I think that this next round of community input at this stage would be more informative of where we're at, and what we've incorporated. And to
Brandon,
to a certain,
I'm wondering,
yeah,
I know that we're kind of at that 60% stage, but again, I'm wondering now as we start working on the other side of this, and not to oversimplify, but leave the existing bathrooms as they are without any remodeling, versus what our other choices might be as we're making changes due to costs and everything else. That I would love to have more input there than less. And I know we don't want to start redesigning the building, but fit and finish and different things like that. Even the contemplated change from the aesthetics of wood beams to wood grain steel beams or whatever that might be. More input.
Remember, we did host in this room, so the entire chamber board was invited. A lot of members did attend. Then they got another presentation, the EDC board, the CVB, Clay County, Cass County, City of Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead, were all invited to hear. That was an opportunity just a few weeks ago when they did the fly-through for that input.
And I'm just saying, if we're going to have a more purposeful committee, rather than people sort of self-selecting on a case-by-case basis, if I understand you correctly.
Just bringing together community stakeholders to discuss the future opportunities, the vision. I mean, we've talked about, how can we, like the fly-through was beautiful, but it could have been in any city in America. How do we represent North Dakota? How do we represent Fargo? And I think that to have the input of community stakeholders might be invaluable at this point.
Well,
as we get to the finishes.
Yeah. Brandon, if Paul were to take this on and invite half dozen or a dozen or whatever number it is, community members to kind of review everything with that, is that going to be a problem for you, or?
No, that would be great. We can walk them through what we have thus far, and Paula, we can. It'd even be nice to have the artworks folks there, kind of give them some, I guess, some heads up on, so they can think about some of the spaces that we'll have available, and what they would be providing, because I'm sure this group would be interested in how we can, how we're localizing some of the finishes and displays.
I agree, and I actually met with Tanya from Artworks yesterday, and she's very excited.
Okay.
And I've come, specifically, like I've thrown out ideas about, say, Roger Maris or say I just think the more people kind of providing input at this stage, the better, particularly our community stakeholders, just to make sure that we get it right.
Yeah, we can work with you on that. Absolutely.
Would you like to make a motion that would just receive and file the update and also create the committee?
I can.
And appoint yourself to lead that.
However Joan wants to write that down, I so move.
What's the committee called?
Just a community task force, how about? Or
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Brendan, did you have anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's it for today. Thank you.
All right, thank
Mr.
you.
Chair,
Thanks for the update, Brandon.
I guess I do have one addition for Paula. I think if Mead and Hunt puts together their rationale and process to date for your benefit of the group that you have, that helps them understand what has been done to date and how they came to their decision point right now. Because maybe that answers 90% of those questions, because they do that process daily, and that may help.
So are you suggesting like Brandon zoom in, or Jeff is at the meetings, or
Well, no, I think understanding their process to get to where they are to this point is important for your group of people you put together.
Mhm.
'Cause that way they're not rethinking the wheel.
right?
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
I think
Yeah.
the more kind of brainstorming together of our community stakeholders, including the people who are working on the airport, I think the better result we're going to get to. And we always talk about community engagement, so why not include the community in a more inclusive way?
When directly asking them to participate too,
Yeah.
as a committee person. Okay.
And I know, like visiting yesterday with Tanya, she was excited about that opportunity.
Great. Number 8, the proposed contract with Stroh for the parking structure, $2,365,000.
Motion.
Okay, motion. I know Mr. Berg had questions about that. I believe we received just sort of an informal communication from Mr. Berg that he met and went through and was comfortable with things that he had questions about on the contract. So we do have Mr. Ingen's motion. Is there a second?
Can you repeat the motion?
Motion would be to receive, to agree to proposed contract for architectural services with TL Stroh for the parking garage in an amount of up to $2,365,000.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hagan.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Heckman.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye. Item number 9 is travel authorization for the National Guard reception, November 13th and 15th. Sean, who's going to this?
Myself as co-chair of the North Dakota National Guard support group that's here in Fargo.
I noticed they recommended flights for you too.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Does fall on our Tuesday, November meeting date, so I may leave a day late after the board meeting. The primary purpose is to get to the National Guard Association reception for the Guard that we've gone to for how many years? A number of years.
Well, and
We'll adjust.
Sean, I would, you're important to have here, but we can probably get through a meeting without you if it's more beneficial for you to be there. Or we could, as we did last time, move the meeting. 2 meetings a month, we should be able to cover everything.
Is Darren able to fill in?
Yeah, I can do it by Zoom too if we have to.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I wouldn't miss part of that just for one of these thrilling meetings. Construction and security update, anybody?
Jeff, do you have anything?
I guess I'll just keep it really short. Really the only thing to report on is the our general aviation ramp. We met last Friday with Northern, and their plan is to start paving the North Perimeter Road tomorrow, and then potentially start paving the concrete apron at the end of the week. So right now they're just working on aggregate base. They had most of it installed or in place prior to the rain over the weekend, so it was very good. So they're in good shape. So there's still a lot of work to do, but they're in good shape. So.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Oh, I've got another thing.
All right.
Mentioned it briefly at the very end of
Yeah.
the last meeting. We had discussed going to Sioux Falls to check out their airport, potentially Des Moines, but can we move forward with making some plans on that? Getting that done?
Sean, is that something you can put together at this point?
Pick a day. I don't know when everybody's available and when they're available on the other end.
Well, let's first just figure out logistics, how we would get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all show up individually, or
Might be a good time to check out Mr. Berg's facilities and one of his jets to use.
How do you publicly notice that? So if they're on a notice, so if the forum reporter wants to tag along, DAY, KBOY, you have to prepare for that as well. So
you put them on the lane. You don't have to have them inside the lane.
We could maybe secure a small shuttle bus type of.
Yeah.
Of
Let's just see what our options are at this point. And it might be one of those that, given your point there, that it's just noticed for the meeting in Sioux Falls and Des Moines, and we find our own way there. And I don't, John, the city's done bus tours and different things.
They have, and you just notice it to the public, and you're right, the media will come along.
Yeah.
But
they won't.
they will.
They
They will want.
Oh, they will.
Notice
Okay.
them anyway.
okay.
But yeah, they've gone to like Lincoln, Nebraska, and looked at, or to Winnipeg, and
Okay.
get in a bus and go.
Okay.
But since we're an airport, it'd probably be better to fly in.
Well, we have landlines.
I'd prefer that.
All right.
finding a date, I don't, it's an overnight deal, I would assume. During the day.
Well, and again,
I think if
I
we
think you just have to sort of, pick a day if you can give 60 days notice or 30 days or something, and see, let everybody react to it. We are coming up into the holiday season, which will get difficult. Maybe something after the first of the year. Or something.
I think if we can get to Sioux Falls, that'd be. I think that could be a 1 day, like a down and back. If we want to include Des Moines, that makes it a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's more travel, greater distance, more time.
I've
So
just seen Des Moines, they're going through a terminal decision right now, a parking garage that we haven't broke ground on yet that I'm aware of. I guess we could say, if it's down and back to Sioux Falls, we can maybe make something work on a bus or something like that, but
I'd love to do both, but if we can only do one, one's better than none. For cost
Well, let's see what we
and
can
time.
put some options put together for next time. And like I said, I do not think you're going to be able to do a doodle poll of the members and everybody to get agreement to a date. So I think this may be more of one that pick a date that would work on both ends and let the board react to it. All right. Anything else?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hey.
Opposed, same sign.